definitely kind of feel that makeup trends have really been making headway over the past couple of years, where we used to see a makeup trend and it would last for months and months and months. But in recent years, we've seen makeup trends come and go in a matter of like a season. And that's what I wanted to talk about today in my Unfiltered series. I wanted to talk to you guys about makeup trends, how they are changing, how they are being recycled and renamed, and that's what we're talking about today. So if you guys like unfiltered makeup opinions and honest reviews, tutorials, that sort of content, definitely consider subscribing and leaving me a comment down below. If you guys are new to my channel, if you aren't new here, I am going to try in the description box down below remembering everything that I'm putting on my face today. So go check the description box for all the products that I'm putting on my face today. Anyway, so I feel like as of late, we have seen so many makeup trends come and go when it, like, just in general. And yes, we used to see makeup trends. It's not a new concept seeing a makeup trend, but we have seen makeup trends come and go at like the fly of a hat, and they're actually they're just like circulating through makeup trends like crazy. Like the makeup space is going through so many makeup trends, and it's kind of hard to keep up with all the makeup trends that keep happening in the makeup space. So I am going to try doing my face with some of these like overly hyped makeup trends that we have been seeing, and kind of see how my face turns out as well. When it comes to makeup trends, I mean, we have seen in the past. Let's just go through like memory lane and talk about some of the makeup trends that we have seen in the past, and some makeup trends that I have actually like participated in because I really liked the makeup trend. A couple of them that come to mind are like, the 2016 really contoured face with like the ABH contouring palette, and you really got in there and you chiseled out your face. That was a huge trend. The smoky eye was a huge trend when I was actually in high school, where all you would do was put like black all over your eye. That was a huge trend even back then when the makeup space wasn't like as big as what it is today. It was actually not as prominent as what it is today, even back in like 2007. And that was a huge makeup trend that we saw even back then, and it kind of came back in the form of like a brown smoky eye. It wasn't like a black smoky eye. There was even a smoky eye trend that came out in like 2015, 2016, where it was like a gray and black smoky eye, and that was a huge trend, but that trended for quite a while. And I remember like walking into a local beauty store and buying a smoky eyeshadow palette that was like gray, white, black, like that's all it was. And sometimes it was also a dark blue hidden in there. But I remember that makeup trend. And then as of recent, as we have gotten into, the 2020s, we've seen a dramatic shift in makeup trends, but those makeup trends have like been coming and going so fast. It's actually really hard to keep up. And some of the makeup trends that we have actually recently seen, which have come as a shock to me, are trends that we saw like back in like the 80s and the 90s, and we'll get into that as well. So some trends that we saw just like randomly come and go. There was a copper penny trend where you just put copper eyeshadow all over your eyes, and that was something that trended in 2023 specifically. But there was also the latte trend where your makeup was like latte looking, and you literally just used all browns all over your face, and you were a very warm like bronze like everywhere. And I think that's where copper eyes came from too, because people were like, let's try copper eyes. They called it the latte trend, and it was basically just like black. And I actually have a latte trend video that I did with the ColourPop Not a Box of Chocolates palette. That was when that was actually trending. And then we had like the winter one. It was like a winter wonderland cold girl trend. That's what it was called. It was the cold girl trend where you had like cool blush tones and you just looked like you were cold and you were just touched by the cold, like on the balls of your cheeks, but it was with like a cool tone blush. And then came in like the cool tone blush, and like we have seen so many trends. Like we are actually going through like a I mean, we've seen the trend of like no makeup, where people are just doing bare minimum on their face. They aren't even putting on foundation anymore. They're just kind of like touching and going. We've seen a huge trend with that. And then we've also seen trends like, they call it the doll blush trend, and they call it the grungy trend, or like the muted lip trend, and or duck lip trend. And there's been so many trends that have been actually happening within the last, I want to say 2 years, that I have seen more trends in the past 2 years than I have like in my entire like known existence of following the beauty space and being interested in beauty. And that's not a joke. Like, I have seen so many trends over the past 2 years compared to like all the trends that I saw in my teens and my early 20s and even into my early 30s than what I had. Like, there's just so many makeup trends that I have seen in the past couple of years. I would definitely say I feel like COVID was a big kicker of like makeup trends, because a lot of people were flocking to TikTok, and they were looking like, things were becoming popular on TikTok. Like, on my channel, I just posted a video about Cosmopolitan's 7 like summer makeup trends. And I actually went through and I talked to you guys about like their predictions, and it was according to like experts that they talked to. And then I also told you guys about like my predictions and what I think we're going to see in the summer of 2024. But we have seen so many makeup trends that have just come through within the past couple of years. I definitely want to say since COVID, like I said, they have picked up because TikTok has been all over the place, and once a trend goes viral, everybody has to try it, and then everybody uses it for a while, and then another trend goes viral, and everybody has to do it, and everybody has to try that trend, and they're just not sticking around the way that they used to. And it truly makes it hard to keep up with like the beauty space in terms of that. That's like a whole other thing. I actually have another video about how the beauty space has drastically changed, and it's all a part of my Unfiltered series. But definitely go check out that video after you watch this one, of course, and also the trends from Cosmopolitan, because that one's a really good one as well. So what does it mean? Like, why are we seeing so many trend shifts, which I kind of highlighted on, and it's definitely because of TikTok. But one thing that I really wanted to discuss today is the simple fact that some of these trends we have actually seen before. I feel like we've seen them a lot before. Some of these trends are actually just being renamed as like a new trend, but they're actually something that we have seen before in the makeup space. So I wanted to chit chat about that a little bit too, because there are definitely trends that I am seeing that were once popular when I was a teenager, and even when my mom was a young adult, because I just remember like hearing about it, seeing about it when I was when I was in elementary school, and my mom would wear like certain types of makeup looks, or even how she taught me how to do makeup looks. The first one that I wanted to talk about is actually called the doll blush trend, and this is something that I actually mentioned in my, reviewing Cosmopolitan trends for this summer. They call the doll blush trend where you just pop blush on the balls of your cheeks, and it's just like a wash of color. And I thought that was actually kind of ironic, and I pointed it out in that video, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it in this video, is the simple fact that that trend is not new, and it actually didn't even have like an official name. Actually, at one point when I was growing up, we just called it like the 80s blush trend, because that's how they used to do their makeup in the 1980s, was just putting it on the balls of their cheeks, and like they would go about their day. So that was definitely a trend that I remember, like when my mom was teaching me how to do my makeup when I was a teenager, and this is like early 2000s, mind you. I remember her telling me that you smile and you put blush like on the balls of your cheeks, and that's how you would do your blush. That is literally what the doll blush trend is now. It is a tongue twister. So if you hear me say like doll brush or doll something, it's because doll blush, saying that, is a tongue twister for me. But when I heard about the doll blush trend, about just concentrating it on the balls of your cheeks, I was like, but guys, like that has been a trend before. That was actually a huge trend in the 80s. It was a huge trend in like the 80s and the 90s, especially like the mid 80s to the early 90s. That was a huge trend that I saw. as a child because of the way that my mom would do her makeup, and then my mom saw it as a trend. I've actually looked through like my mom's cosmetology book from the 80s, and that trend is actually in there showing you how to apply your makeup, which is ironic in and of itself because nowadays it's actually, at one point in time, that was like the one trend that you wanted to avoid with doing your makeup because people thought it made your cheeks look huge. It didn't look good on you. That's been in the recent years where the trend has been to place your blush up higher on your face so that it kind of draws your face upward. But now the new trend is doll blush. But it honestly, what it needs to be called is 80s nostalgic blush because that's literally what it is. Although maybe the reason why they're calling it doll blush is because the colors that are being used are ones that you would see typical of being on, like, you know, a baby doll. But the placement is from the 80s. Like, it's totally 80s, totally 80s blush. Now, there is another trend that has actually recently surfaced with blush. That trend is actually placing it down lower. And this was something that Kelly Gooch mentioned in a recent video about like trends as well. And so she mentioned in her video that there is the boyfriend blush trend, which is what her video was talking about, among other things. And so I've heard about the boyfriend blush. And the boyfriend blush is actually a new trend that just came out, even though doll blush is like a trend right now anyway. So there's like a million trends for different things. And so the doll blush trend is out, and then we also have the boyfriend blush trend, and it's where you place the blush more on like the lower parts of your face, so like where I actually put my bronzer. That's where they're saying the boyfriend blush trend is, and it definitely is reminiscent of like the 80s with that blush trend. I actually think of like Titanic came to mind when I thought about this because her face was so pasty pale, but then she was actually flushed like right in here instead of like on the higher points on her cheekbones. She was actually flushed like down in here. Another really good example of that blush trend, of the boyfriend trend, is it was actually seen a lot in Sex in the City on Carrie Bradshaw. I remember seeing her blush like lower as well when in the earlier years of Sex in the City, like season 1, season 2 of Sex in the City. And that is technically in 2024 labeled as the boyfriend blush. But honestly, they could name it like the Carrie Bradshaw blush, or the Sex in the City blush trend, or the 90s blush trend, or something along those lines. I definitely think that they don't have to call it the boyfriend blush. It's just a trend from the 90s that they've brought back to life and renamed something else. And that's what makes it so ironic, is that trend, if you called, I guarantee you, if you called it the 90s blush trend, or even like the Sex in the City blush trend, they would be like, oh, that's aged. That's old. That's from the 90s. I'm not going to wear it. But because it has a new name, like the doll blush trend or the boyfriend trend, it's trendy and it's new and it's like this new idea. But guys, like those trends have been around for, I don't even know how long, like forever. Another funny trend to point out is like sunburnt blush trend, which actually that really wasn't that popular at all. So I do feel like that one's a little bit more original, but I mean, there's been the sunburnt blush trend, which I actually really like it in the summertime. I think it's a beautiful trend, but sunburnt blush is a thing where you literally look like you've been kissed by the sun and you just bring it all across, which I like doing a little bit of blush on my nose, but it's something that's not been unheard of, especially for me. I am 35 years old. I've actually heard about putting blush on your nose before to make you look a little bit more sun-kissed and glowy. So this wasn't a makeup technique that I wasn't unfamiliar with by any means at all. Like actually, you know, bringing my blush and putting it on my nose and making myself look a little bit more sun-kissed. That's a trend that I have known for a very long time, actually since probably like 2011, 2012. It was one of those, I was in Mary Kay, don't come for me, but I was in Mary Kay and their tutorials were always like, smile and put the blush on your cheeks and that's how you get it. And then just like warm up your nose a little bit as well, so you have a little bit of like color on your nose, a little bit of like natural color is what they would call it. That is not an uncommon trend either, to have blush on your nose and make it look like you are kissed by the sun. That, in fact, I remember going through when I was in Mary Kay. Again, do not come for me, but they used to have like these like classes that you would go through as like their independent consultant. We'll talk about MLMs at a different time, but just as a reference, I remember going through like their group classes and they were like, oh, you should definitely be teaching them how to make their faces look a little bit more sunburnt in the summertime and get like that natural glow so that they don't have to actually go out into the sun and get that natural glow. And that was definitely something that they like were teaching us in those like Mary Kay classes when we were, you know, when I was in Mary Kay. We will go into MLMs in a different video. I do have unfiltered opinions about MLMs, which you guys can definitely hear. So leave me a comment down below if you want to see an MLM video. But in any case, so that was something that they were teaching at the time, and this was back in like 2012. So that is also not an uncommon thing to me, who has been in the makeup space for a long time. I think that if you were to hear somebody say, oh, just do your makeup like you did in 2012, or like this was a trend in 2012, that the younger generation probably wouldn't take to it because it makes them feel, it makes it feel aged. Like, you know what I mean? Because like, I would not be surprised if somebody was like, well, you know, this is a trend and we're calling it the sunburnt trend, but secretly it's just a trend from 2012. And that's all it is. The same with like bronzer. Like there's now the no makeup look. That's what it used to be called. I remember hearing people call it the no makeup look for like forever. Okay, the no makeup look, where you barely put, you may not even put a foundation on. You might just put some concealer on and then like powder all over your face, and then you do your makeup and you just put a little bit of, you know, blush and bronzer on and go about your day. That was a trend at one point, was like, it was called the no makeup look. And nowadays it's called like glossy makeup, or it's called French makeup, which there have been a lot of things trending with, like Typology, which is actually a French company that promotes the French way of doing makeup. But in any case, like all of these makeup trends, we have seen quite a few of them before. I feel like we have seen quite a few of them before. And all they do is they get recycled from older trends, and they're given a new name. A huge prime example of this would be blue eyeshadow. Like, everybody knows that blue eyeshadow was huge. Absolutely huge in the 80s. Like like there were memes like for the longest time, like you can never have too much blue eyeshadow. It's actually from the movie My Girl with Jamie Lee Curtis, and it talks about like, oh, you can never have too much blue eyeshadow. And that movie actually takes place in like the 60s when blue eyeshadow was a thing. So in that movie, My Girl, Jamie Lee Curtis is a mortician. She is a cosmetologist, but she goes to find a job as being like a makeup artist for a morgue. So she does like the makeup for people, but then she ends up doing the makeup for the daughter of the gentleman who owns the morgue, and she's like, you can never have too much blue eyeshadow. Now, this is set in like the 60s or 70s. I can't remember exactly the time frame, but it was ironic because she said like, you can never have too much blue eyeshadow. And with the setting of this movie, it was like 60s, 70s time. I think it was like late 60s, early 70s. And then the blue eyeshadow trend actually became a huge trend in the 80s. And as we saw from some trends that are coming out in 2024, blue eyeshadow is coming around again. But they're not calling it the like 80s blue eyeshadow. They're not calling it the like, you know, 70s or 60s blue eyeshadow trend. They're just calling it like a blue eyeshadow trend, or like a winter wonderland trend, or like a frosted trend. And they're making it seem young and hip and cool for these eyeshadow trends that are happening, or makeup trends in general, I should say. We are seeing trends recycling, but they're recycling much faster. Like so much faster than what they used to. I have seen, I mean, we just named a whole bunch of trends in this video that have happened over the past like year and a half. Like trends have just been popping off left and right, and it's just crazy to think about how many trends we've seen in the makeup space, and it's hard to keep up with the trends that are happening in the makeup because I can definitely remember like doing the latte eyes trend for summer of 2023. I believe it was summer of 23. And by the time that fall hit, we were not in latte eyes anymore. We were in like completely one and done sparkly eyes, like hardly anything on your face. Whereas like the latte eye trend was like very smoky, brown in nature eyeshadow looks. And then all of a sudden we switched to like fall when you would think that that would be trending, and it wasn't trending anymore. It's very interesting to see makeup trends and how they've just changed so quickly. Honestly, TikTok has played a huge role in that because, like I said, one trend can go viral on TikTok and then another trend go viral on TikTok. And this is within, it can be even weeks where the trend is like there and gone within weeks, not months, but weeks. So it's definitely something that I have noticed because of the TikTok platform. I mean, there's still trends that are going to stick around. They're like the classic trends that people keep going back to. And, you know, I think of like, I mean, we've already mentioned it. I think about the doll blush trend. I mean, like I said, that was a trend that was in like the 80s and early 90s. You know, we just got the boyfriend girl blush, whatever you want to call it. We just got that. And that is also something that was very reminiscent of the 1990s. Terracotta lips are a huge trend, and terracotta lips were a huge trend in the 90s and early 2000s. So trends in general are typically inspired by trends that have already happened in the makeup space, and they're just making their like second or maybe even sometimes third wind in the makeup space. And honestly, this doesn't just happen in the makeup space, this also happens in fashion as well. Makeup does the same thing. Makeup goes through the same trends, and they call it by different names to keep it hip, to keep it young, to keep it fresh. And I'm not saying that I am opposed to bringing about makeup trends from like the 80s, the 90s, and everything like that, but I wish that it was I wish it was talked about more, about the fact that like this was a trend in 1999 or this was a trend in 1985, like the blue eyeshadow. You know, I wish that beauty gurus, what if they are trying a trend, I wish that they would just point out and mention like, oh, this is basically the Carrie Bradshaw blush trend from Sex and the City, and point that out, because it's nothing new. It's nothing ingenuic. It's the same trend with a different name. So that's my unfiltered opinion for today, talking about makeup trends. I did do some makeup trends that I actually love and embrace, and one of them having to be where you place your blush up a little bit higher here and it draws your face up. Another trend where I do like the sunburnt blush trend where I put a little bit on my nose and just kind of feather it out into my cheeks as well. We didn't do like blush right on the balls of my cheeks today, we just kind of diffused it out. And then I also like placing my bronzer right in my, like right underneath my cheekbone, and I feel like gives me more of a thinner face. And those are two trends that I really embrace. And the other trend that I love is not Instagram brows, but basically just like natural brows with a little bit of fill in them. Not necessarily soap brows, because I don't like my brows looking like caterpillars all over my face, but basically just putting a clear brow gel through it, taping those brows, and just making them look nice. And then if I have any sparse areas, just filling them in. I call it like natural brows. I don't really know, like that was a trend for a little bit there where you just had like natural brows. It's kind of like a mosh of like soap brows with just like filling in your brows. But that's one of the trends that I absolutely love. And then all we did was put on a lip oil today. Actually, a lip gloss. All we did was put on a lip gloss today, which is the Huda Beauty Faux Filter in Honey. I love this shade. It's so pretty. So thank you guys so much for watching and staying tuned to this video. If you guys haven't already, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button, and leaving me a comment down below. It tells YouTube that you like this video. If you guys haven't seen the Unfiltered series, definitely go check it out on my channel, and I hope I get to see you in my next video. Bye!